Freedom is not given, it is taken. On May 16, 2025, the walls of the Orléans Justice Center did not simply crumble, they were pushed. Antoine Massey, a name now whispered with a mix of fear and reverence, did not just find a door open. He and 9 others created their own exit. This was not a lucky break or a moment of chaos. It was an act of profound organization, a calculated move against a system designed to contain and crush. The story of this escape is more than a headline. It is a lesson. It is a modern-day echo of the countless stories of enslaved ancestors who did not wait for emancipation but carved their own paths to freedom through swamps and shadows. This event challenges us to see beyond the simplistic labels of inmate and fugitive. It forces us to ask deeper questions about the nature of justice and confinement in America. When a man with a history of dismantling his own chains does so again, is it merely a repeat offense, or is it a consistent refusal to accept a predetermined fate? Massey's actions were not random. They were the result of intelligence, strategy, and a deep understanding of the very system that held him captive. He saw the cracks in the foundation not as flaws, but as opportunities. This was a rebellion born from within the belly of the beast, a testament to the enduring human spirit's quest for autonomy. We must look at this escape not as an isolated incident, but as a chapter in a long and ongoing struggle. The narrative pushed by authorities is one of danger and criminality, but another narrative exists, one that speaks of resistance and self-determination. This is the story of a man who, faced with the crushing weight of a system he believed to be corrupt, chose to write his own story. He chose to become the protagonist of his own liberation. This is not to glorify crime, but to scrutinize the conditions that make such desperate acts of defiance seem like the only logical choice for survival. The escape from the Orléans Justice Center is a mirror held up to society. It reflects the failures of our institutions and the power of collective action. It shows that even in the most controlled environments, the will to be free can find a way to flourish. Antoine Massey's story, therefore, is not just about one man's flight from a building. It is about the timeless and urgent call for Black communities to recognize their own power, to organize their own resources, and to define their own liberation. It is a reminder that the most powerful chains are the ones we accept, and the first step to breaking them is to believe that we can. They called him Houdini, a nickname meant to capture his uncanny ability to escape. But this label, while catchy, is a disservice. Harry Houdini was a performer, an illusionist who tricked audiences for entertainment. Antoine Massey is a strategist, a survivor who dismantles real-world systems of control for his freedom. His actions are not magic, they are the product of meticulous planning and sharp intellect. The 2025 escape was his masterpiece, a complex play orchestrated with the precision of a chess grandmaster. He did not just see the pieces on the board, he understood the mind of his opponent, which in this case was the entire carceral state. He knew its weaknesses because he had studied them for years. Consider the details of the plan. This was not a spontaneous riot. It was a coordinated effort that exploited known vulnerabilities within the Orléans Justice Center. Reports show the inmates used a hole cut behind a toilet and navigated through defective door locks, flaws that were not secret to those living inside. Massey is believed to have been the ringleader, the mind that saw how these individual security failures could be linked together to form an escape route. He reportedly had money ready, a hotel planned. This was not a desperate dash for the door. It was a calculated exodus, proving that the most brilliant minds are not always found in boardrooms or universities, but sometimes in the places we least expect. His distinctive chess piece tattoos are not just ink on skin, they are a symbol of his entire philosophy. In chess, the goal is to outthink your opponent, to anticipate their moves and to position your pieces for victory, even when you are outgunned. Massey applied this logic to his own life. He allegedly organized schemes from inside the jail, demonstrating an ability to create networks and manage resources even under constant surveillance. This strategic mindset is what separates him from a common fugitive. He was not simply running from the system, he was actively playing a game against it, using its own rules and infrastructure to his advantage. This level of intelligence and planning directly confronts the racist caricature of the impulsive, unintelligent Black criminal. The system relies on this stereotype to justify its own brutality and incompetence. Massey's story shatters that myth. It presents the image of a black man as a thinker, a leader, and a strategist capable of outmaneuvering a multi-million-dollar security apparatus. His escape was a mental victory before it was a physical one. He proved that the power of an organized mind is greater than the strength of steel bars and cinder block walls, a lesson that resonates far beyond the confines of any single jail. No one escapes alone. The image of the lone wolf rebel is a powerful myth, but the reality of liberation has always been rooted in community. Antoine Massey's escape was not a solo performance. It was a symphony of solidarity, conducted by him but played by many. The very fact that 10 men broke out together speaks to a level of trust and coordination that the system is designed to prevent. Jails are built to isolate, to turn individuals against each other through fear and suspicion. Yet, in this case, these men chose unity over division. They chose to place their faith in each other rather than in the guards who patrolled the halls. The support did not end at the prison walls. It extended into the streets of New Orleans and beyond. In the days and weeks that followed, law enforcement arrested more than a dozen people, family members, friends, and romantic partners, accused of aiding the escapees. These arrests are not just a list of alleged accomplices. They are a testament to the strength of a community network willing to defy the state. These individuals allegedly provided shelter, transportation, and resources, creating a modern-day underground railroad. They risked their own freedom to help others attain theirs, embodying a principle that has sustained black communities for centuries. We keep us safe. This web of support is a direct challenge to the idea that black people must rely on official channels for help. The system tells us to call the police, to trust the courts, to have faith in the process. But the people who allegedly helped Massey and the others understood a different truth. They knew that the same system that locked these men up would not be the one to liberate them. Their actions represent a conscious choice to invest in their own people, to build their own systems of mutual aid and protection. This is not lawlessness. It is the creation of an alternative social order based on loyalty and shared struggle. This collective effort reveals the deep roots of organized resistance within black culture. From Harriet Tubman's network of safe houses to the Black Panther Party's community survival programs, our history is filled with examples of people coming together to provide for and protect one another when the state would not. The assistance given to the Orleans Justice Center escapees is a continuation of this powerful tradition. It demonstrates that community is not just a feeling. It is an action. It is a verb. It is the conscious decision to stand with and for each other, even in the face of overwhelming state power. In the 21st century, the battlefield for justice is not just in the streets or the courtrooms, it is also online. Antoine Massey understood this better than anyone. While on the run, he did not hide in the shadows. He stepped into the digital spotlight. Using his Instagram account, he seized control of his own story, transforming from a silent fugitive into a vocal protagonist. He posted videos directly challenging the official narrative spun by law enforcement and the media. This was a brilliant and modern act of resistance, bypassing the traditional gatekeepers of information to speak directly to the people. He was no longer just the subject of the news, he was the source. In his videos, Massey presented his own version of the truth. He claimed he was let out, not that he escaped, suggesting a level of complicity or negligence that the authorities wanted to hide. He denied the official account that he had threatened a maintenance worker, reframing himself as a man pushed to the edge by an unjust system. He spoke of facing a potential life sentence for charges he argued were false, transforming his flight into a righteous act against a corrupt state of Louisiana. By doing so, he wasn't just pleading his case, he was putting the entire criminal justice system on trial in the court of public opinion. His use of social media was also a direct appeal for solidarity from those with power and influence. He called out to figures like Donald Trump, Lil Wayne, and Meek Mill, attempting to leverage their platforms to amplify his message of injustice. This was a strategic move to show that his fight was part of a larger conversation about wrongful convictions and systemic corruption. He was connecting his personal struggle to a national movement, using the language and tools of the modern era to do what Black leaders have always done: bear witness to their own oppression and call for others to stand with them. This digital strategy represents a profound shift in the power dynamics of resistance. For centuries, the state has held a monopoly on the narrative. They had the press conferences, the official reports, and the media contacts. Social media shatters that monopoly. It gives a voice to the voiceless and allows individuals to counter propaganda in real time. Massey's Instagram posts were a declaration of informational independence. He was refusing to be defined by his accusers. He was showing the world that even when you are being hunted, you can still control how your story is told. A powerful lesson for anyone fighting against an oppressive system. An escape of this magnitude does more than just challenge the authority of the state. It exposes its incompetence. The breakout from the Orleans Justice Center was, honestly, a glaring indictment of a broken and negligent system. It revealed that the fortress designed to hold people captive was, in fact, riddled with weaknesses. Defective locks, crumbling infrastructure, and procedural failures were not just incidental details. They were the very tools the escapees used. The escape laid bare the truth that the system is not the omnipotent, well-oiled machine it pretends to be. It is a fallible institution, and its neglect creates the very conditions for its own defiance. The shock expressed by officials and jail staff is perhaps the most damning evidence of all. How could a man with Massey's well-documented history of escapes, a man nicknamed Houdini, be placed on a floor known for its security flaws? It is a question that points to a level of systemic failure that borders on the absurd. This was not a failure of one guard or one policy. It was a failure of the entire carceral culture, a culture that is often more focused on warehousing bodies than on maintaining genuine security or, heaven forbid, rehabilitation. The escape was a symptom of a much deeper disease within the prison industrial complex. This event forces us to question the billions of dollars we pour into policing and prisons. We are told this money is for our safety, to maintain order. Yet a facility like the Orleans Justice Center, funded by taxpayers, could not perform its most basic function. The massive manhunt that followed, with its helicopters, drones, and federal agents, was a spectacle of state power trying to compensate for its own prior failures. It was a reactive display of force designed to reclaim an authority that its own carelessness had compromised. The resources spent hunting these men could have, and should have, been invested in fixing the broken system in the first place. Ultimately, the cracks in the concrete walls of the jail are symbolic of the cracks in the entire justice system. A system that disproportionately targets and incarcerates Black men is inherently flawed. A system that relies on pretrial detention to coerce plea bargains is fundamentally unjust. A system that allows its facilities to decay while its budget for surveillance and punishment swells is profoundly broken. Antoine Massey and the others did not create these cracks. They simply had the courage and the ingenuity to walk through them. Their escape serves as a powerful reminder that the system is not invincible. It is brittle, and its own decay can become a pathway to freedom. There is a story we are told from birth: trust the system. We are taught to believe in the fairness of the courts, the integrity of law enforcement, and the promise of justice for all. We're encouraged to work within this system, to file appeals, to hire lawyers, and to patiently wait for the gears of justice to turn. But for millions of Black Americans, this story is honestly a cruel fiction. Antoine Massey's life and his dramatic escape are a powerful rejection of this narrative. His actions represent a profound understanding that waiting for justice from a system designed for your subjugation is a fool's errand. It is, in fact, an act of organized self-preservation in the face of organized oppression. Massey's history is a case study in this disillusionment. He had been through the system time and time again. He was facing a life sentence on charges he publicly declared were false. From his perspective, the path of compliance, of waiting for a trial, of trusting a public defender, of hoping for a sympathetic jury in a state with a history of racial injustice, was a dead end. It was a path that led to a cage for the rest of his life. His choice to escape was not a rejection of justice itself, but a rejection of the system that falsely claims to deliver it. He chose to pursue his own form of liberation rather than waiting for a verdict from his captors. This choice between relying on the system and organizing for self-determination is at the heart of the Black freedom struggle. Do we beg for our rights from the very institutions that deny them, or do we build our own power to secure them? The reliance on the established system often leads to cosmetic changes, small concessions designed to pacify and control. It results in endless commissions, studies, and hollow diversity initiatives that leave the fundamental structures of power untouched. It is a slow, soul-crushing process that asks oppressed people to be infinitely patient while their lives are destroyed. In contrast, the path of self-determination, as exemplified by Massey's escape, is about creating new possibilities. It is about refusing to play a rigged game. This does not mean everyone should break out of jail. It means that communities must shift their focus from appealing to the conscience of the oppressor to building their own capacity for action. It means creating networks of mutual aid, supporting political prisoners, and developing strategies for resistance that operate outside the confines of the formal political and legal systems. Massey's flight was a radical act of self-reliance, a declaration that his freedom was more important than the system's rules. Antoine Massey's story must not be confined to the true crime category. It should be studied as a blueprint for defiance. It offers critical lessons for Black men and communities who feel trapped by circumstances and systems far beyond their control. The first lesson is the power of strategic thinking. Massey did not succeed through brute force. He succeeded through intellect. He studied his environment, identified its weaknesses, and formulated a plan. This is a model that can be applied to any struggle. We must analyze the systems that oppress us, whether they are economic, political, or social, with the same rigor that Massey analyzed the walls of his jail. We must become strategists in our own liberation. The second lesson is the necessity of collective action. Massey did not act alone, and his continued evasion was made possible by a community that supported him. This underscores a fundamental truth. There is no individual freedom without collective struggle. The myth of the individual pulling himself up by his bootstraps is particularly damaging to Black communities, as it ignores the systemic barriers we face. Our power has always been in our ability to come together, to pool our resources, to share information, and to protect one another. The escape from Orleans Justice Center is a powerful reminder that our bonds are our greatest weapon against a system that seeks to divide and conquer us. The third, and perhaps most crucial lesson, is the importance of controlling the narrative. By taking to social media, Massey refused to let his opponents define him. He told his own story, in his own words, on his own terms. In an age of information warfare, this is a vital tactic. Black communities must become more adept at creating and disseminating our own narratives. We must build our own media platforms, support our own storytellers, and challenge the misrepresentations that are used to justify our oppression. We cannot expect the mainstream media, which is part of the system, to tell our truth for us. We must seize the microphone. This blueprint of defiance, strategic thinking, collective action, and narrative control is not new. It is the same blueprint used by our ancestors who resisted slavery, who fought for civil rights, and who continue to struggle for justice today. Massey's story is a contemporary application of these age-old principles. It should inspire a new generation to move beyond feelings of hopelessness and despair. It shows that even when the odds are stacked against you, even when you are physically confined, it is possible to plan, to organize, and to fight back. It is a call to view our circumstances not as a final destination, but as a strategic problem to be solved. For too long, the dominant strategy for achieving Black liberation has been one of petition. We march, we protest, we beg our oppressors to see our humanity. We appeal to the moral conscience of a nation that has shown time and again that it does not have one. We ask for justice from the very systems that were built on our bondage. While the spirit behind these petitions is righteous, the strategy itself is flawed. It places us in a position of supplication, of asking for what is already ours by right. It keeps us locked in a cycle of demand and denial, forever waiting for a change of heart that may never come. Antoine Massey's actions, and the community support that surrounded them represent a radical shift from petition to power. This is a move away from asking for freedom and toward the act of taking it. It is the understanding that power concedes nothing without a demand, and a demand is meaningless without the organization and strength to back it up. Instead of writing another letter to the warden, Massey and his collaborators are said to have studied the building's blueprints. Instead of waiting for a lawyer to file a motion, they created their own motion with their feet. This is the fundamental difference between begging for a seat at the table and building your own house. This shift in mindset is essential for our survival and progress. Building power means creating our own institutions. It means developing economic networks that circulate wealth within our communities. It means establishing our own educational systems that teach our true history and empower our children. It means creating our own systems of community safety and conflict resolution that do not rely on a violent and racist police state. It is about becoming self-reliant and interdependent, recognizing that our collective strength is the only thing we can truly count on. This is not about isolating ourselves. It is about engaging with the world from a position of strength, not weakness. The escape from the Orleans Justice Center in this context becomes a powerful metaphor. It symbolizes a break from the dependency on the master's tools and the master's goodwill. It is a declaration that we will no longer wait for permission to be free. This is the challenge that Massey's story presents to all of us. Are we content to continue petitioning a system that is designed to fail us? Or are we ready to start building the power that will make that system irrelevant? The choice is ours. We can continue to ask for justice, or we can begin to organize ourselves in a way that makes injustice impossible to sustain. The hour is late. The challenges we face are immense. To agonize over the injustices we suffer is human, but it is not a strategy. To lament our condition is understandable, but it will not change it. The story of Antoine Massey and the organized escape from the Orleans Justice Center must be more than a fascinating tale. It must be a catalyst. It must ignite within us a renewed commitment to the most potent tool we have ever possessed: organization. We must channel our pain, our anger, and our frustration not into despair, but into the disciplined and patient work of building collective power. This is the final and most urgent lesson. We must organize our communities block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. This means getting to know our neighbors, building relationships of trust, and creating networks of mutual aid. It means establishing systems to care for our elderly, to educate our youth, and to support those in crisis without relying on the state. Organization is the practice of turning a crowd of individuals into a unified force. It is the work of creating structures that can withstand the pressure of a hostile system. This is not glamorous work. It is slow, difficult, and often thankless, but it is the only work that will lead to true and lasting liberation. We must organize our resources. Our communities possess immense economic power, but it is too often siphoned away. We must make a conscious effort to support Black-owned businesses, to create community-owned banks and credit unions, and to invest in our own infrastructure. We must organize our intellect, bringing together our thinkers, artists, strategists, and builders to solve our own problems. The ingenuity that can plot an escape from a maximum security jail is present in our communities 1,000 times over. We must harness that genius for the purpose of building a new world, not just escaping the old one. Let this be the takeaway. Do not wait for a savior. Do not wait for the system to correct itself. Do not wait for the next election to solve your problems. Look to the person next to you. Look to your community. That is where your power lies. The path forward is not to agonize over the height of the prison walls, but to organize the means to tear them down, or, better yet, to make them obsolete by building a society where they are no longer needed. The time for begging is over. The time for building is now. Organize, organize, organize. Make sure to subscribe to this channel. You and all your friends and family watch all the videos. Trust me, you and the world won't be the same after.